So the pandemic was happening. We weren't in lockdown yet. I got sick, like my stomach and everything like froze, like it was like rock solid, and I almost couldn't go to urgent care. I went to urgent care and I was like, I think I'm dehydrated. I think that's the problem, you know? And they couldn't find my vein because nobody can ever find my vein. So they sent me home with these pills. And I ended up throwing up the pills because I was just, anything I had, including water, I was throwing up. I'm like, if I keep throwing up water, I'm going to die because you need water. So I ended up calling an ambulance, an emergency at midnight to go to the hospital because I needed to get fluids in my veins. And so then that happened. They do me all these scans and stuff, and then they come up with they want to get rid of my ovaries. I'm dehydrated, you understand? But this is why I hate the doctors. I had the hysterectomy. They left the ovaries in because they leave them in. Now they want to take them out. Along with this hernia that I have, that I wanted the hernia fixed before, but they wouldn't fix the hernia without taking out my ovaries. And I'm like, I'm not taking out my ovaries because there's some cysts. I don't have cancer. I'm not doing that. I've been through this dog and pony show before where they try to scare you into having an operation because they want, so they start telling you it might be cancer, it might be cancer. And I was like, I'm not doing that. They try to scare me, telling me that I was going to never feel better again if I didn't have this operation. That's what the person at the emergency room told me. So they decided that now that I could eat and not throw up, that I had to come home. I was only there for the one night. I was afraid to come home because I was alone, and I was afraid I was going to start throwing again, pass out by myself, and then that was going to be it. But they said, no, you got to go home. They were afraid to death of the pandemic already. There was nobody in that hospital. It was so empty. So I came home. Luckily, I did not pass out. But after a few days of just drinking Gatorade and haven't gotten the fluids, I felt regular, like normal. And I'm like, I don't want to have this operation. I don't want to have an operation emergency unless it's an emergency because I don't believe in it. You can die in operations, especially they wanted me to have a robot operation, which I'd never want to have, and all kinds of stuff like that. So I'm like, you know what? I'm walking around. I don't want to do that anymore. So then, boom, the lockdowns happen. Now we have to stay where we are. I have nowhere to go. You know, I have nobody I could stay with. I have no money. I'm still in this house. The house still has roof on it. Everything works because the light bills and gas bills and stuff, like I said, could be paid out of the estate because it was for the house. I could not have money to eat and survive as a person who was. So I ended up applying for food stamps because of the pandemic. Once I had applied for the food stamps, I realized I was able to get the internet essentials to um, be able to have internet, which I hadn't had that whole time. It was so hard for me to try to look up everything, really not having internet. I paid for a month of internet once, but I couldn't afford it. I didn't have the money. So trying to outwit this lawyer and do everything I had to do and do all my mom stuff. But now I needed it because the libraries are no longer open because I used to use the library's internet. You know, now everything was shut down. Once I was able to get the internet, I was able to connect with the world again. Did I look for a job again? Of course I did. I tried to look for a job right after my mom died too. Was anybody calling me? No. Every time I look, I must have a valid driver's license. I do not have a driver's license. I'm not even qualified to apply for 90% of the jobs that pop up on that screen, and otherwise nobody's ever called me. So now we're in lockdown, and I'm like, the world's ending. I think I have to stay in this house until the end of the world. And I'm like, how am I going to do that? I'm like, well, I have food stamps now, so I have food money. I still don't have money. And then I was able to get that stimulus check. I thought we would get a second one at some point if things carried on. Either way, now I was like, okay, my mom died in September, so I'm stuck in the house anyway. I thought I would have to sell the house as soon as possible. I'm already behind. I already had stopped paying my credit card, so I was already in trouble. We were in lockdown in Massachusetts. We weren't supposed to, I wasn't supposed to go out of the house. I didn't go out of the house except for once or twice a week to get groceries because we weren't supposed to. The buses were, you're only supposed to take them for essential trips, meaning food. So I did that, and we stayed in lockdown and stayed in lockdown. And I was in the house, and I at first was trying to get another lawyer, but I was like, you know what? I'm more than halfway there now. If I can get to September, I can wait this guy out. Maybe I can wait this guy out, and then in September, when the estate gets settled, the house will be mine. Whatever little bit of money's left, I can use that to stay in the house as long as I have to sell it or figure out where I'm going. But if this pandemic happens and everything goes to hell, maybe I have to stay in the house. I really didn't know. It wasn't what I want to do. None of it was what I want to do. It was what am I going to have to do? I'm going to figure it out, and I'll wait until September. And then once I get rid of this horrible lawyer and everything's back in my hands again, I'll be able to figure out what I'm doing. So a couple days before the year anniversary of my mom dies, I call the lawyer so that he can settle the estate. Oh, I can't settle your mom's estate. I would love to, but the state of Massachusetts, your governor, he starts telling me, your governor extended some statute of limitations, so he has no idea when he'll be able to settle my mom's estate. I'm like, but it's a year. And he said, yeah, I know, but they changed it. I'm like, that's not fair. I waited all this time. And he's like, well, complain to your governor. And I didn't know it was happening. All I knew was I thought I was at the end. I thought I was going to be away from this man. And even though I was in serious financial trouble, everything was going to be back in my hands, and I could do whatever I had to do, figure out if I was supposed to try to live in this house, figure out if I was supposed to do whatever I had to do, if I was supposed to sell it and try to move on, And now all of a sudden, that end date, that deadline that I was looking for, that I was staring at just to get my freedom back and to do whatever I had to do after everything I'd been through, it disappeared. And it was now off in the future somewhere. And he didn't tell me when, and he didn't tell me when. And come to find out, this thing had been going on for months. They had postponed this thing since back in like May or something, and he never told me, or March. He never told me. I only found out, just like everything else, I only found out the information because I asked him. Had I known months before, I could have planned for the fact that, no, September is not your end date anymore, and you don't know when it's going to be, so come up with another plan. I was not able to do that because this jackass, again, did not tell me what was going on. He did everything behind my back, took total control of things. He did so many things wrong. I had to catch him making a mistake once that he didn't want to fix when he put in the inventory in the first place. I mean, the stress I went through with this guy, and then later on, with my mom's tax return, he made me take it to him. I didn't know I could have done these things on my own. He had it sent to an accountant, and then they filed it without me even looking at it. And I was so upset, and that's when I flipped out and went to try to get help to get another lawyer because I didn't trust him at all anymore. I didn't know if he was trying to gaslight me to drive me crazy so they could take control of everything and get as much money as he could out of the estate. I didn't know what was going on. That's why I was trying to get away from him. Now, I did everything, made every decision based on this pandemic and my not having money and everything, thinking if I just get to September, I'll be free of this man. The house will be in my name. I'll be able to move forward. It'll be hard and difficult. I'm in financial ruin, but it'll be up to me. And then boom, no, it's not. And I only found out a couple days before September 2nd, which should have been the 1-year anniversary of my mom's death and should have been my day of freedom. And instead, everything just carried on. But my credit card bills are still getting later and later. I'm still going to end up maybe getting sued by them myself. That time marches on. But everything else came to a standstill. And my day of freedom now disappeared. So what happens next? I don't know. My brain explodes. And I got to figure out what to do.